issues are persisting.
Sure.
Okay. Great answer, though.
Thank you. I worked at home. I'm like making it great. This is where Hunter does his magic.
Yes. I mean, really, you would think with a networking expert on the live,
I expect like the internet packets to be intimidated by me and my presence, and to just go directly where it's supposed. But yeah, it's all about that, really.
So I think it was a Zoom issue. We were still streaming on YouTube, but for some reason it didn't say we were. And so I restarted it, and now it says we're live on YouTube on Zoom. So the problem is it gave me a new link, so I can put that in the old chat.
Okay.
But
okay, so are we? So, oh, great! Your magic is very powerful, Hunter. By the way, I just have to comment, Brooke, regarding like one time I had a conversation with an networking expert from MIT. The best networking lab in the world. Okay, these guys are doing like, I'm an expert in it. These guys blow everybody else out of the water. They are the best in specific Wi-Fi, okay, and super cool stuff. And he tells me, yes, like this is like he just finished his PhD. He was looking for like academic position. He still can't make his home Wi-Fi work. Okay, so he's kind of, yeah, no, that's unsolvable. So if really best people in the world can make their home Wi-Fi work, it makes me feel just a tad better about me, experiencing networking issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good to go? Are we good to go with the questions again? So you asked about the price. Were there any additional questions?
That was it for now.
Okay. Okay, so we can move forward. So these were kind of like how you could make better trades using bloXroute. Some of it is about, well, you identify the trade you want to make. You want to send it out as fast as possible, because getting it to the pools, like if it's not there, it's not getting, doesn't matter your gas price, etc. And a lot of it is about seeing the information faster and identifying these opportunities faster, because otherwise, well, by the time you identify them, they're already gone. So how do you use bloXroute? Hold on. Well, you actually have two ways. How do you connect to bloXroute? How do you connect to the BDN? And one of them is if you connect to your node. Okay, and Mason here is going to show exactly how it is. Literally 5 minutes work. Okay, this is like, oh, there's a setup to be done. No, this is like the easiest thing in the world. So if your operation is one where you're like, okay, I have my own node and I send transaction to it, and that connects me to the rest of the network. Well, you should take a blockchain gateway as a small piece of open source code that you run next to your node. You add it as a peer, okay? So your node thinks it's an Ethereum node, but in reality, it sends and receives fast everything through the BDN. So your node will be just up to speed using that. You can query the gateway, you can query your node depending on the specific functionality. If you don't run your own node, no problem, right? It's kind of like, okay, you're using Infura, you're using Alchemy or something like that. We have our cloud API. And again, first customer got it today. So you guys are, if you come and try to use it, you're really front of the line of the people who see like this opportunity. Well, the cloud API just allows you to see all the transactions, to get all that, to get transactions from all these things without actually going through the hassle of running your own node, if that's how your setup is, how your operation is set up. And with that, I think we can go to Mason and what it's like to run a gateway.
Hi, everybody. Can I get a thumbs up if my audio is good? Okay,
Perfect.
Great. Awesome. I will share my screen and show you guys just how easy it is to install the bloXroute gateway. So if my screen is visible to you guys, which I think it is, basically what we're going to do is I'm going to take a server, two servers in Singapore, one which has a blockchain node running on it, an ETH mainnet blockchain node, and then a second one which is just a normal server, and I'm going to launch a gateway on that server. So the first thing I'm going to do is SSH into that server, and then also SSH into our node. And this could vary depending on your exact setup. I'm using AWS servers in this case. And as you can see on the top here, this is the gateway. This is the server that's going to host the gateway. And this one has the Ethereum client running as a Docker container. You can see it right here. And so up here, I'm going to create a new directory called demo. And I'm going to go inside that directory. And now I'm going to create a Python virtual environment to host the Python that will be running our gateway, because we're using something called pip, which is a package installer for any Python package, really. So I'm going to start a virtual environment, virtual env, with Python 3.8, the newest and best Python. And now I will activate this virtual environment. And you can see on the left here, we have our environment. So to install the bloXroute gateway, you first need two things, and they're just simple pip packages that you can install. One is requests, and the other is distro, to help us know what operating system you're running. And so once I've installed these, now all we simply need to do is pip install bloXroute-gateway. And anyone who's used Python has done pip installs thousands of times. They're very simple. And as you can see, the gateway is getting downloaded right now. And so while that's happening, let's go down here to the bottom and just look at the ETH node that we're going to connect to. So this is the IP right here. And if I do ethrpc admin.nodeinfo, a common way to check the information of your Ethereum client, we have the enode, which is the public key of the ETH client, and what port it's listening at, its IP, some useful information. So we're going to use that information when we start up our gateway. And so the gateway startup command is going to look something like this. We're going to prepend no hup, which basically means after I leave this session that I'm showing you guys, don't stop the program that I'm about to run. And then the command is called bloXroute gateway. And this command takes a few startup arguments, and that the gateway will use to connect to the right blockchain node. And so the first startup argument is the protocol, and we're going to choose Ethereum. And we specify it like this: --blockchain-protocol Ethereum. The second is where our blockchain node is located, and that's the IP address from before. Blockchain IP 54.254. This is also in Singapore, as I mentioned. And then lastly, we'll have our node public key, which is in the enode I mentioned right here. And this will tell us exactly kind of what the Ethereum client needs to know in order to accept our connection.
Mason, can I hold you for a second?
Sure.
So just for like taking into account that most people here aren't super savvy and techy, even if they run their own node, and some people are maybe more savvy than me. But I just want to point out, okay, you have two machines here, right? You have the one running the gateway, and that's the top one, and you have the lower one where you run your node. So in the if currently you're running an Ethereum node, that you only have now to do the top one. You have to only add one, and it just always a command. They're looking terrifying, and you have to you kind of walk through the step and do exactly that way, and then you don't mess it up. But really, what we're doing here, just from a high level, is oh, well, you do a few things. You run this command, and it downloads the software, and then you do this command, and it runs the gateway, and you tell the gateway, oh, here is a blockchain protocol. It's Ethereum, and this is the IP address of the node that I wanted connected. And here's the key and whatnot kind of thing. So really, you're walking through the steps, and I want everybody, it might look a bit intimidating. We're just hop directly to how you do it. This is super 5 minutes work, super easy 5 minutes work thing where you just download the code, run it, tell it to which Ethereum node to connect, and then you're done. So I just wanted to emphasize that for the watcher, for the viewers who aren't super tech savvy, and that might be slightly intimidating. If we jump directly, oh, we just do these kind of things. Okay, hold on, I'm not doing any of it. So I just want to point that out.
Right, that's a great point. And what's really going on here is that the bloXroute gateway is protocol agnostic, like we mentioned. And so we're just giving it the bare bones information necessary for it to know where to look and where to point to and how to communicate with the blockchain node. And so this is all we really need. This is all the information that we need to give it. And just lastly, it's going to produce some logs that are constantly describing the state of the gateway. And so we're just going to send those to a file called logs.txt. Why not? And then lastly, we'll add a ampersand just to make it run in the background. So when we leave, it'll still run. And now, if we did it right, we have our gateway. And I can show you guys, 1 second here.
All right, I'm going to interrupt with a couple of questions. So is it right that a user has the option to host their own node, but if they don't want to, they can use the bloXroute Cloud API? That's a question for Uri.
So there are 3 options that we can do. One, or that's possible for a user. One is you can run your own gateway, right? What we're doing right now, to run it on your own machine or in AWS or however you want to do it. This would keep your node in sync and you could query it. That's option number 1. Option number 2, which was mentioned in the question, is, oh, you could use the Cloud API. The Cloud API allows you, to see the blocks, to see the transaction stream, etc., or to see the transactions. It's not built in right now to send the blocks. So mostly because what will you do with them, right? You'll need an Ethereum node to do all of that. So you could either run a gateway if you're running a node, or just ask the Cloud API. But there is a third possibility here, which is a hosted gateway, which means we'll run your gateway. Okay, this is we're in crypto, so everything regarding trust is slightly, at least I'm looking with, a suspicious eye. But the idea here is that we're a software company, right? We're a networking company, and we built this entire thing. We provide all sorts of services. One of them is that if you don't want to do all of that, we'll run the gateway, we'll maintain it for you, we'll upgrade it anytime we create a new version, etc. So yes, you could do the 2 things. You could run your own gateway, or you could just access the Cloud API. But there is also a third option if you run your node and you want us to run the gateway for you.
Right, exactly. And
sorry to interrupt again, Mason.
No worries.
I just really don't want you to talk. No, I'm just kidding. But if anyone is interested in the bloXroute Cloud API, they can sign up for the waitlist, and we will email them when it's released and with more information. That waitlist can be found at bloxroute.com/product, and I'll put that in the chat as a link.
Yep.
Okay, you can.
I want to stop Mason from talking too. So I want to emphasize that we're doing that, and you could just join that and use a product and whatnot. But if you have interesting feedback, if you want to be in touch with us, we have the Discord. Brooke will throw that as well. And if you have further questions or thoughts and say, oh, you know what, I would also like this feature and that feature, or just staying in touch, because so we'll tell you, oh, you know what, here's a new service that we're offering. You can now, if the future blocks comes out and you want to do that and these kind of things. So yes, you can just download it to do these things, etc. But I highly encourage you to join the Discord. It's actually 0 spam there. You have a few top traders, DeFi people who ask us questions and respond there. But I really highly recommend it, because maybe we can offer. Just want to point that out. And now Mason can talk again.
Cool. Thanks, Uri. So yeah, while you guys were talking, just kind of redid the installation. And just to show you how quickly it's possible, I just did it twice. And if we look at the logs, we can see here we have a logs file. And we can see that the gateway started and it connected to a remote blockchain node, our relays, other gateways, relays that forward blocks, and then it even started forwarding blocks to our blockchain node. And so lastly, I'll just show that there's a way to check the status of this gateway by going to a bloXroute folder, which is automatically created when you start the gateway with pip. And you can check out, if I just look at the top bit of this file, you can get interesting information. So the gateway is online. There's no account associated with it yet. So there's a free quota. And all these connections are established and looking good, as well as this basic information as well. So that's it. That's all it is to take. That's all it takes to start up a gateway with pip.
Mason, do you want to show the BDN Explorer for a second, just so people can see a bit like what the statistics look like?
Sure. I'll have to stop sharing for a second. And then Explorer.
Are you hiding all the like not to be seen by public eye content that you have on your desktop and kind of, oh no, I wasn't planning on that. Let me turn off my screen sharing.
Yeah, well, I always screen share this specific window when I was screen sharing my terminal. But now you've got Safari, and can you guys see this? Is this working? Cool. And so here's the BDN Explorer, and just quickly, I won't go into too much detail, but here is a synopsis of the BDN efficiency in the last 24 hours. So what percentage of blocks come from the BDN first, and what percentage of transactions come from the BDN first? And this is really cool information to kind of gauge the health of the network and the speed at which transactions are being propagated and the value add that bloXroute brings. So yeah, that's about it. Anyone have any questions?
That looks perfect to me. I need new AirPods. Mine died in the middle. I hope everybody can hear me fine. I just want to point out a few things. So like Mason right now is at BDN Explorer. Just Google BDN Explorer and you'll find it. The 91% that you see there, that means that if you take all the gateways or all the nodes connected to us, in 91% of the cases, they get blocks faster from us than from the rest of the network. Now, this is like, it can never be 100% because we get the block from somebody every single time, okay? So the 91% here figure is really, really high. Seeing 68%, that means that if you're connecting two blocks, you'll be seeing 2/3 of the transaction you'll be seeing faster on average or something like that. So this is like worth taking a look at. I think it's kind of cool. Brooke, any other questions out there?
We had one more question, if there was a benefit to running a node.
So it's a good question. Depending on your setup, yes, depending on your, but not always. So depending what you do and what are the things that you follow. Sending transaction fast is something you get equally well if you run a node and run a gateway or just send it to the cloud API, same, it doesn't matter. But if you're querying the state of the blockchain and you don't run a node, it means you're using one of the services, right? The Infura, the Alchemy, whichever nodes, somebody gives you this data. And I can tell you for certainty that data is very, very, very stale. Like seconds stale is not unusual at all. So we speaking with the friendly traders who we work with and get their feedback, etc. It came from them that, oh no, they run their own gateway, run their own node, and therefore they want the gateway because just using that means they're seeing stale data, and therefore there is definitely value. We're considering and exploring just working with such providers and maybe create like this real-time DeFi tier powered by bloXroute, but we're not there yet. We're thinking about it, we're talking about it, but it isn't there. So for the time being, yes, there is definitely value in running your node and a gateway. Again, assuming you do these kind of things. If you don't, I don't know, maybe you're not pretty much at any setup that I can think of, but I don't, depending on what's the input based on which you're making your decisions. And that's, I hope this answers the question.
And I'll just add that with the new products we're releasing with the Cloud API, if you can get transactions just as quickly from those as you could from running your own node, that becomes obsolete. And part of the reason that we're bringing this service out is that it will increase access to really fast transactions without having to go through the hassle of running a node.
Good point.
Another question about the BDN Explorer. Are the transactions in the recent blocks shown on the Explorer all being routed through the BDN?
So I'll be even more than that. Everything in Ethereum is being sent over bloXroute. Why? Because we're connected to dozens of pools and services, and we see all the transaction and all the blocks, everything happening. And so we see something, we broadcast it, whether we were the first to see it and whether it's a miner who mined a new block and gave us directly, or we're not connected to him and it was sent through somebody else, but when we'll see it was. So all the transactions and all the blocks are being propagated over bloXroute right now. And if you connect to it, you'll get it faster. Now, I lost track of what was like, I lost my train of thought. So the question was about whether these transactions are being propagated over bloXroute. Yeah, they are, but more than that, everything is being broadcasted and propagated using bloXroute.
Cool. That's it for the questions. We have about 22 minutes left. If you guys want to wrap up a little early, or if there's anything else you want to cover before we...
I think, generally, I think we had quite a lot of data, both from us and from Hunter. So I don't we can cut it slightly shorter. That's my perspective a bit, and kind of keep it sweet and short rather than just make it longer for no good reason. Hunter, do you want to add anything from your end, whether on this, whether on DeFi in general, whether on Kyber?
Not necessarily. I've got no problem ending a little short here. We can definitely get a recording up, so anyone that wants to watch it later can do so. But if really all I would have to say is keep up to date with the Chicago DeFi stuff on Twitter. So you can follow our future meetups, or reach out to me or the people at bloXroute for any questions, for anything that you've seen throughout this meeting. And I appreciate everyone once again for attending, and everyone at bloXroute, thank you. It was great presentation, and so thank you.
But our slides are nowhere as neat and we didn't take the time like you did with really making the best slides. So this was fun. Thank you for doing it with us.
Yeah, thanks Hunter for organizing.
Yep. Thanks everyone.
Thank
awesome.
you.
We'll wrap it up there then.
Okay, great. And if anyone wants to learn more about bloXroute, you can go to www.bloxroute.com or follow us on Twitter at bloXroute Labs. And we have a Discord, a Telegram, Reddit, all of that good stuff. And links to all of that are on our website.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are we done? No.
We're done.
I don't know. Mine says live on YouTube. I'm staying here.
Oh.